Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Paper Talk. Today we want to talk more about Paper to Profit, the mastermind. What does it mean for you to be in our mastermind group that we're going to be meeting for 6 weeks from May 20th to June 24th? It's a commitment, 6 weeks where we're going to meet every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are really excited to have you with us. And Jessie and Sara and I have been talking about how we were going to work this frame to make sure that this particular 6-week commitment that you're going to be joining with us, what does it mean? What are we going to cover? And we really talked about where we got where we are today by talking about our vision, like our goals. Because if you don't have a goal on how to navigate where you want to be, you're going to be wandering aimlessly around. We talked about how all three of us make paper flowers, but because our goal is completely different, we actually don't cross paths exactly. I mean, there's some part of crossing path, but really our clients are a little bit different. Our products is a little bit different. And we want to talk about that. And we want to help you navigate your journey to make sure that your goal is where you need to be. So, Sara, Jessie, do you want to talk about on the very first meeting?
Yeah, for sure. The very first meeting, we're actually going to go through chapter 1. And chapter 1 really is about establishing your why. And I think a lot of us go into business not really knowing what our why is. We have a feeling, but we've never written it down. We've never really truly zoned in on why we're doing what we're doing. We just know that we like making things. And actually, some of us aren't even sure if we like making, what we are making. Is that why? We don't really ask ourselves. Most of us start making things and then somebody asks us to make more. Or somebody says, oh, can I pay you for you to make, this painting for me, or for you to make this bouquet of flowers? And then, naturally we're inclined to say yes, because it's so encouraging that somebody actually likes what we're doing. But we never really sit down and then say like, wait, is this really what I want to do? And we just kind of keep going, right? What's next? And by the time you know it, it's 3 years in and you're reevaluating really like, where am I going? What am I doing? And, where should I go from here? And that often happens because we didn't ask ourselves that question at the very beginning. What is our why? What is our why? What is our purpose on this earth? Doesn't have to be as big as that. But if you're going to make what you do your passion and your life, you should be asking something similar. If not about why you're here on earth, at least, what do I want to do every day when I wake up? What do I want to do that makes me feel happy? Why do I want to do this? Do I want to spread the word of paper flowers as Quynh does, or,
Yes.
or do you want to do it because it's a way of you to express your inner thoughts, or the way that you want to make a comment about the world? You do have to kind of figure that out, because without that framework, without that ultimate goal, you have nowhere to go. You don't know where to go. You have no, your path could go everywhere and anywhere, but you'll never reach that goal and actually feel like, okay, my vision of what I want my life to look like, I'm there. We decided really for this mastermind to kind of redo our framework a little bit, where we're framing it from a perspective of goal making way and a real journey, as opposed to just telling you, well, this is what we did. We really wanted to go back to the basics and help you guys find your big vision. And then through the other chapters, give you the information and our experience, the very end of our mastermind, to revisit the vision and figure out, what kind of goals, smaller goals, do I have to reach to get there? And how do I do that? But I mean, ultimately, your why statement, I think, will clarify a lot about not just why you're doing it, but also how to arrange your business affairs, make business decisions based on your why. And those decisions will come very easily because you know what your whys are.
I agree with that statement 100%. The journey that I did to where I am right now is so important, because if you say that I want to spread the joy and the word of paper flowers, that decision is going to navigate where and what jobs you're going to accept. Does that mean you're going to accept more international jobs? Does that mean you're going to do more local? Do you want to start in a smaller footprint? And then how do you go and navigate from that? At one point in your paper flower journey or your creative journey, you're going to get a lot of different collaborations. You're going to get a lot of different types of jobs, and you're going to be overwhelmed. And you're going to have to pick and choose which project you're going to work on, because it needs to align with what your values are and what you plan to do with that particular job. And it's so important to think about that and revisit this particular vision that you have for what your business is to make something that has longevity. And Sara, Jessie, and myself, we've been in the business for more than 10 years now. And how we've been able to do that is the decisions that we've made to get to where we are right now. And that's what we want to help you with. It's so important to keep your values close to your heart and close to your business, because if you're not aligned with what your business is, then you're not going to go far. Sara, you've been in business way longer than Jessie and myself. Tell us a little bit more about how you got to where it is here and how your vision has helped you navigate to where you are now.
Yeah, I think it's really important to figure out your why, because I've actually transitioned my business so many times. And it was actually originally I started with paper crafts. Like I was just doing it as a hobby. And I think it was literally the idea of being able to make something out of paper is what genuinely makes me happy. And, it's like low investing and you just need paper and some scissors. And that was literally what captured me in the moment and making me happy. And that's why I did that as a hobby. And then, I transitioned into so many other things. Like I made wedding accessories because I was chasing money, really. And I was chasing things that were more just trendy, but it wasn't really me. And then when I finally came back around to paper flowers, it like sparked that joy where I kind of had like a few years in my business that I was just doing something just for like the trend, for, I don't know, whatever in the moment kind of situation. Yeah, I think now that I'm getting older, I'm like, no, I want to do what I want to do. And then like, of course, along the way, I figured out how to make money out of doing what I want to do on top of that. So it's obviously even better. But yeah, I feel like it's the perfect first chapter to figure out exactly what your why is. And of course, you can still transition your business in the moment, whatever situation you are in. But coming back to that why statement is what makes you happy and continue on. And I think we talk about this. It's how to sustain your business and truly with what you love to do. It's what your why is. You can't sustain it if it's something that you don't enjoy. And there were like years and years of me just kind of doing something that I was like, well, this is going to make me money. And that's why I was just doing it. But I was like, no, but I love making paper flowers. And I think it literally is like when I look at a piece of paper and I'm like, wow, I can make something really pretty out of that. And it's like, it doesn't require any, I mean, of course, there's a lot of tools that do eventually go into making paper flowers. But in the moment, like when you first start, you really don't need anything other than paper and scissors. You can get really creative and glue. Yeah, I forgot that. Yes. Although we did have a project together, remember? We were trying to figure out how to make something without glue.
I know. That was so hard with paper. Yeah. I feel like with wood, it's a lot easier because they can interlock, but paper is so flat.
Yeah.
And you can cut slits, but then the slits will fall off.
Hey, we got pretty close though. We got pretty close.
We did.
And that sparks so much joy though, even though that was like work. I felt like I was like so into it. I'm like driving and I'm like, oh, I need to go home and figure this out. And I was so excited.
Right? Yeah.
But that's the work that I want to do.
Right?
Yeah. That's the work that I want to do. Like I want to be able to be like doing this. Yeah. I love that. I love that paper to profits. That's how we're going to start. But obviously, we're going to talk about like branding. I think that's like our second chapter, and like pricing. And of course, like all the business part is not technically the fun part, but you need to make money too. So that's what we're going to be talking about.
Well, you do talk, I mean, you did just talk about, chasing the money. And I think reframing that, which is what we do in the course, is reframing the concept of pricing, reframing what it means to make money, I think is a really integral part of this framework that we've implemented. I mean, we've talked about this in the past. I remember our previous podcast with Sean Lowe about pricing and a unique way of looking at pricing. And I didn't realize that, how powerful that can be until it really happened to me. Right? When I literally decided, because my son was going through all these, emergency room runs, and I realized that I really had to stop taking all these commissions and start sort of shaping my work based on the lifestyle that I wanted to have. So my business, I had to kind of reframe that. And then what I ended up doing was creating batch work instead, and increasing my pricing. And it goes back to the idea of like, what lifestyle do you want to have? What revenue goals do you want to hit? and then working backwards and saying, okay, well, how do I frame or how do I structure my business so that I can meet those revenue goals? And it could be diversifying your income so that you're teaching, you're doing speaking engagements, you're publishing a book, but it could also just be, the work that you make. How much of that do you have to make? What price do you have to impose on each piece of those work to meet your revenue goal? And ultimately, your revenue goal is not just chasing the money, because we can never make enough money, right? We can always make more, but how much is enough? And what is your bottom line in terms of meeting those specific revenue goals that you have, which might be just literally paying for the roof over your head and maybe, for your materials. It could be many things, traveling. But I think looking at it from that angle, as opposed to saying, okay, well, this flower sculpture or this, print, how much is someone going to pay for that? That's a very small way of looking at pricing. It's a very, I want to say, almost a macro view of pricing, when we really should be looking further away. We should be looking at pricing not as pricing per item, but pricing as a way of life, as a way of your business, of running your business. And I think our chapter on that is going to be really helpful, I think, for people who have always approached pricing as just putting a price on a product and saying, will somebody pay for that? Or how many hours? Or what is the cost of materials? And then add up that into a formula and say, okay, well, that's what I'm going to price. Because I think there's so much more that you can work into the pricing that will make your business more sustainable.
And also, can we talk about our customer base? I think that's another important aspect that we're going to talk about is how do you find the right customer that will buy the product that you price at a certain point? Because every customer base is going to be different, and you have to understand your market and how do you cultivate that and how do you bring your voice to attract the right customers to bring in that particular customer that will not even blink an eye and says, yes, I love her work. I don't really care. I will save money to buy her thing because I love her flowers so much. Those are the type of clients that you want, where you just say yes to because they hit all the checkbox. You love them, you love working with them, and they love you right back. Those are the clients that everybody wants and dream of. And I feel like Sara, Jessie, myself we have those customers, and we want to share our how to, why to on getting that. It's so important to know who your audience is and to cultivate it. And we want to share that knowledge with you.
In our next chapter, we'll be doing social media. And of course, that's something that I obviously love talking about, because it's not just about just showing your product like as a portfolio, but it's also it's a free marketing tool. And I swear there's people that, I think I mentioned this in other podcasts, but basically like you can go viral and be a restaurant that's like not that good. And if you go viral, you'll have lines out the door. And I think that's what makes it so important. Like it just proves that social media is important. And for us artists, like I do feel like, we have to do the work that makes the paper flowers or makes the art, and then we have to do the social media. It's like a whole new job, but it is important. And I actually do talk about how to monetize that content on top of that. So, I do sell my paper flowers. I sell it as a digital product, and then I also get paid for my content. So that is a different stream of income, but I still technically make paper flowers, right? That's how I make money.
Yeah.
But it also comes from creating content. So, the process behind making paper flowers is really pretty. And it's like satisfying. A lot of people weirdly like it. There's a lot of audience that like has nothing to do with paper flowers. They don't even make paper flowers, but they love watching it. And there are random things that like I like watching as a viewer that has nothing to do with, paper flowers. I genuinely love watching like when people make like paintings, and it's like the whole process behind it. I mean, there's like so many artists out there that's what they're famous for, right? So I think definitely there's room for your content and making paper flowers as like a thing. I'm excited to talk about social media, but not just marketing, but also creating content to be like monetized, a different stream of income. But yeah, most importantly though, really, like you could go viral at any moment, and that's marketing right there. Yeah. I think like the one time I hit like a random video. I mean, every video, like they're the same, but one video just hit viral on TikTok. And that day alone, like I got like thousands and thousands of people clicking on my link to bio. And I was like, what? Where is this coming from? I got like so many purchases that day just from that one video. So I feel like social media is, it's as important as your website and your branding.
One thing I love about Sara is, yes, we're super excited that she got viral, but she actually looks at the numbers. She figure out, where are these clicks coming from? Are they coming from YouTube? Are they coming from Instagram? Are they coming from TikTok? And to have this private conversation with her on the behind the scenes and knowing your numbers, it's just incredible. It's like, what? That's amazing. And this is what you're going to get in the mastermind group. You can personally ask us these questions. And just a reminder, we're only going to have 24 seats in this mastermind group. And to be part of this private group where we're going to be sharing knowledge, the behind the scenes, our numbers, the reason why we do certain things, how we got to certain things. I mean, we do share a lot on Instagram and social media, but we don't share everything because there's not enough room. And a lot of people just are not curious about the number crunching, the dry stuff. And I feel like if you're serious about your business, you really do need to know your numbers, because what's driving you to do this? I mean, we've all talked about chasing the money. We all need to support our family. We all have things that we need to buy and purchase to live day to day. And that's the reason why we were doing it. Bottom line, is really about money, but also to satisfy that joy that you do. And it's a plus that we get to do what we love to do and make money from it. It's so incredibly important. And then some of the other dry things that we want to talk about is, what is AI doing in our industry? How can we move the needle and use that to our benefit? And I did a course last year talking about ChatGPT, but that was last year. And I feel like AI has moved so fast in the past 18 months that it changes week to week, month to month. And I want to talk about and give you viable tools on the prompts. How do you make ChatGPT sound like it needs to sound, so it sounds like you and not some robotic person doing all these words? You're like, oh my God, that sounds like ChatGPT. How do you take that out, and how do you improve the prompts that you tell ChatGPT to do it? And I'll be frank, we now have scaled down who we actually hire to do Paper Talk podcast, and we use ChatGPT to edit the videos. We use it to do our show notes. We do it to help write our newsletter. But I have to say, it takes a lot of massaging. Jessie now handles the newsletter, and she's a great writer, but we do start with something, because I feel like when you stare at a blank page, it's hard to get that word out. And I love that ChatGPT helps me get over that hurdle, because sometimes I don't know what to write. And I'm like, how do I write this blog post? And ChatGPT will give me the titles that will be SEO appropriate, that will drive people to your website to look at it. It'll give you hashtags. I mean, those things, but you can't just say, give me the hashtag for paper flowers. It will randomly give it to you. But if you don't know how to drive that seat and give it what you need, then it's not going to be beneficial. There's things that will show you, like the free version. We do have the paid one because it is definitely a lot more versatile for what we do. But we can't wait to share all this information with you. And another thing that we really want to talk about that's affecting our industry right now, actually everybody industry, is tariffs. I mean, what is happening right now as things are moving day by day, change by change? And let's talk about this. We want to give you like a 10-minute conversation. So stay with us, because this is really important for people, not only in our industry, but just everyone. So Jessie, with your particular background in law, tell us, what is tariff? And as a Canadian, how do you see the United States?
Well, tariffs are it's a tax that's levied on goods that are imported, so brought into the country. So, the U.S. policies right now, what they're doing is they're imposing tariffs on a lot of products that are coming into the United States. So what does that mean? It means that if a 25% tax is imposed on gas and oil coming from Canada, the importer of the gas and oil, so some big gas company, will have to pay a 25% levy on top of what they paid for. So if they paid for $1 million of this is hypothetical of oil and gas, they'll have to pay 25% of that $1 million on top. And that money is collected by the US government. I believe it's through your treasury, or anyways, as an importer, they have to fill in all these paperwork. And as they're doing that, that's where the taxes are calculated, and they have to pay that before your customs officers will allow that gas or the tanker to come into US territory. So that applies to all imported goods where tariffs are levied. But what does that mean as a creative entrepreneur? as an artist or as a business person, essentially, who makes things and sell things, because it does have a direct impact on our costs. And so, for example, if Quynh, you have to import certain products from China, wires, paper, tools,
Stickers, boxes, packaging.
Shipping supplies.
shipping
Yeah.
supplies,
Yes, exactly.
and those are imported by hypothetically Papermart, and Papermart pays and buys these goods from China, a manufacturer in China, and now there's 100% levy on that. You'll have to pay the importer will, on your behalf, pay 100% of that price. So if they're importing $1 million, it's going to be $2 million for them to pay for the same products. That $1 million gets to go to the U.S. government.
Yeah, let's break it down so it's smaller. So I feel like our audience, let's say you're going to buy a package of wire and it's $5 and it costs them as a wholesale to buy that package for $5.
Yeah.
And if they sell it to you, they are not going to absorb that price because their profit line is not going to afford it. So they're going to pass the cost on to you. That means that package of wire is $10. They're going to mark it up to another part to cover it, which will be $15. So what you had paid before maybe would have been around $10 will now be $15. You have to absorb that cost.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? Are you going to absorb that cost? Are you going to pass that cost to your client that's used to be paying maybe $25 for your flowers? Do you mark it up to $30 to absorb all these extra costs and pass it to them? If everyone's doing this and their income bracket does not change because corporate America are not going to raise your income because it's America performance-based, right? And usually, and I talked to my parents when they were still working, they would only get maybe a 3% salary increase. This 3% is not going to cover that 25% tariff that's going across America. It's going to be hard. And to be honest, our paper flower is a luxury item. And that will be one thing that people will take a break and say, hey, am I going to pay for this when I really need to buy milk and eggs for my children? You know what the answer is? I don't even need to say anything about it. So how do you prepare yourself? And that's really important. Sorry, Jessie, go ahead.
Oh, no. I mean, you're exactly right. As a artist who's going to incorporate different types of supplies and materials that I buy that are now more expensive, the question is, will you pass that cost on to your customers? And you probably will. You very likely will, because it will cut into your profit margin, right? And so, I mean, as somebody who, let's say, is buying, let's say I'm the consumer and I'm buying from an artist, the question is, now that the prices are higher, will I be able to afford that? I mean, that's the bottom line. Will your customers be able to afford it? And then if not, and you're selling less products, how do you meet your revenue goals? Do you then increase your prices even more? I mean, those are things that we'll discuss in the mastermind as we're talking about pricing. But ultimately, now that there are reciprocal tariffs, it means that it also happens in Canada as well, right? So Canada has imposed reciprocal tariffs because they feel that the Americans are imposing tariffs unfairly. And so the reciprocal ones means that the same thing is going to happen to Canadian producers like myself, where I'm importing products, not products, but supplies, let's say, from the Americans. So for example, we get our crepe paper, ironically, from distributors in the United States, as opposed to directly from Italy or Germany. And so we actually have to pay a premium now on the crepe paper that's being imported in because of the tariff policies. And so the same thing happens to us in terms of us passing our costs along to our customers. Granted, I think the difficulty with the tariffs isn't just what happens, it's the fact that they're on and they're off, and they're on and they're off, and we don't know what they apply to on any given day and how much it is. So how does a business owner plan for that? How do you structure that kind of uncertainty into your ongoing business framework? Frankly, it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult because pricing changes from one day to the next. So as a seller, you may want to look into whether or not you can buy all your supplies right now when you know what the tariff rates are. So if, let's say, you bought something and they haven't shipped it yet, maybe try to encourage them to ship it faster, because next week the tariffs might change and they might be even higher. And so I know a lot of consumers who may have bought articles already, but they're maybe waiting around for it to be shipped because it's not the right time of year, to probably encourage them to do it ASAP. Or Sara, what you were doing, right? Tell us what you were doing about your supplies.
Oh yeah, I purchased so much in bulk. I think leading up to these changes, I knew that things were going to, I'm going to use the supplies anyway. So I was like, I might as well just stock up. But I think the most important part, like Quynh was just talking about, like it's to know those numbers. I think the biggest thing that I learned as like a new business owner, I didn't know those numbers. I didn't really know like what my costs really went into, and then like the breakdown. I'm like, well, this is, maybe it's $1, maybe it's $2. No, actually, there's a lot of costs that goes into making things, shipping things. When I actually finally sat down, actually a true story, a long time ago, one of my first like wholesale projects that I did, like a wholesale order, I think I was like, oh yeah, I think I'll be making enough with this. It was like a lot of money. But actually I realized like I didn't really put into consideration all the shipping supplies. And then at the end, I think I came out like maybe $1 of flour because they wanted me to box each flour. And I was like, wait, I didn't put that into the cost of my flour. I think really knowing your numbers is probably the most important thing. And that's what we'll be breaking down, right? On Paper to Profits. You guys think that it might not be that important until you eat all the costs, basically.
Yep. One thing that comes up a lot that people forget to factor in is the shipping cost of shipping all those supplies into, because I feel like a lot of people, they just look at the price of the crepe paper. One roll is, $5, but they forgot that the shipping cost, like if you go to Paper Mart, the shipping is so expensive.
Yeah.
And
that's why you have to buy it in bulk.
Exactly. But also, I mean, you got to factor that in. You got to divide it and do the fraction of, let's say you bought 50 rolls. You got to divide that shipping cost of $50 and add that extra dollar to each of the roll, because that's really what it costs you to do. And if you have to add tax on that, how are you absorbing the tax too? And don't forget to take the tax and put it in your saving accounts. That's the biggest advice I can tell anyone, is to go and put, if you're taxing someone and they're local, immediately round that number up, put it in your saving account. Just put on there, do not touch this money, because when the IRS comes around, they will want that money and you need to be prepared to pay for it. And tax season is happening very soon in the United States. So yes,
it's happening right now. Yeah.
It's happening right now.
Yes.
True.
And these are all lessons that I learned, like, just trial and error. I mean, obviously we've been doing this for years, but in the beginning I had no idea. So, I mean, I feel like I still have no idea, and I'm learning so much just from you guys.
We have so much to share. It's been an incredible journey of learning not only how to do our art, but also how to run it. And it's so important. And we want to pass this on to you, because in reality, we want to grow our industry to make it bigger and stronger. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean hogging all this information within us. We want to share it and make sure that you're running your company the best way that you can, and you're passionate about it, because the longevity of being an artist is doing what you love, but doing it in a way that will make you money. Yeah. Paper to Profit. That's why it's called Paper to Profit, everybody.
We hope you join us on May 20th.
Yes. Sign up.
It's truly exciting.
Yeah. papertalkpodcast.com. That's where you can get all the information. It'll break down all the different chapters. It'll break down each of the week, what we're going to be talking about. And we also have a surprise guest. Should we mention it?
Yeah. It's confirmed.
So, yes, yay! So one thing, everybody knows Margie Keates of the Lovely Ave, and it's been amazing watching her grow her business, build her followings. This is your chance to be in the same room with Margie, online admittedly, but hopefully one day in person. And you can ask questions. She's going to share some of her business structures and what she does, and have your question ready, because this is your chance to actually have an open conversation with her about how you are running your business. And the thing is, with this particular mastermind, it's not about us teaching things that you need to know, which is so important, but also for you to tell us your story, to share your problems. And not only Jessie and Sara and myself giving you some tips and advice, but you have a whole room of people with the same mindset to actually hear your story. And the thing is, you are not alone. And the thing is that I found is Sara, Jessie, myself, we all have the same problem. But when you get to hear how they are able to solve it and piece together their advice and make it your own, that's where it becomes very valuable.
Yeah. We're so excited to have these group meetings with you guys. It's not often that we get to see people.
Yes.
But having that kind of energy where we're all invested in being accountable in our businesses and moving our businesses forward, it's a really exciting energy. I remember, 2 years ago when we ran this, or 3 years ago when we ran this, the mastermind was just the best part. Like getting to connect with other artists and realizing that you're not alone. It's such a powerful motivator.
Yeah. It's incredible for the friendship that you're going to build within the group. And our biggest advice is get to know the people in the group. The more that you invest yourself with each other, the more you're going to get out of it. And the more that you show up, the more things are going to come to you.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, see you in the next Paper Talk episode. Actually, we hope to see you in the mastermind because it's going to be such an invaluable thing to have in your pocket and to get to know us a little bit more. And we can't wait to get to know you more too. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.